On December 2, 1975, the United States Senate published Report 94-755, a 350-page document that confirmed what many had suspected but few could prove. The Church Committee, led by Idaho Senator Frank Church, had spent 18 months investigating intelligence activities and uncovered systematic abuses spanning 3 decades. The report detailed MKULTRA, a CIA program consisting of 149 subprojects involving chemical and biological agents, hypnosis, and behavioral modification. These experiments, conducted between 1953 and 1973, often used unwitting American citizens as test subjects. The committee's mandate was clear: examine intelligence operations that may have violated constitutional rights. This was not rumor or speculation. Senate Report 94-755 made MKULTRA part of the official congressional record, complete with budget figures, institutional approval chains, and surviving documentation. The CIA's own files, though partially destroyed in 1973, provided enough evidence to reconstruct the program's scope and methods. On April 13, 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles signed a memorandum authorizing a covert research program designated MKULTRA. The program emerged from widespread alarm within American intelligence circles regarding communist brainwashing techniques allegedly used on prisoners during the Korean War. Debriefings of returning POWs had revealed troubling patterns of behavioral changes and ideological conversion that defied conventional explanation. Dulles assigned the program to the technical services staff, granting unusual autonomy from standard oversight procedures. According to Senate Report 94-755, MKULTRA was designed to investigate chemical and biological methods for controlling human behavior during interrogations. The authorization memo explicitly referenced the need to counter perceived Soviet and Chinese advances in mind control research. Richard Helms, then Deputy Director of Plans, would become the program's administrative shepherd, ensuring its activities remained compartmentalized from routine agency review. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist stationed at Fort Detrick's Special Operations Division, assumed operational control of MKULTRA in 1953. According to Senate Report 94-755, the Church Committee documented 149 distinct subprojects conducted under Gottlieb's direction between 1953 and 1964. These subprojects spanned universities, pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and federal prisons across the United States. CIA declassified documents reveal that funding was frequently channeled through front organizations, including the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology and the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation. This structure allowed the agency to conceal its involvement from both research subjects and participating institutions. Fort Detrick's laboratories served as the primary testing facility for chemical compounds, while field experiments were distributed across dozens of locations. The Church Committee noted that many principal investigators remained unaware of the ultimate sponsor behind their research grants. In 1955, the CIA established MKULTRA Subproject 42, later known as Operation Midnight Climax. Federal narcotics agent George Hunter White operated agency safe houses in San Francisco and New York, documented in Senate Report 94-755. The San Francisco location on Telegraph Hill functioned as both brothel and covert laboratory. Sex workers, compensated by the CIA, lured unwitting men to the safe house where their drinks were spiked with LSD. White observed the subjects through one-way mirrors, recording their behavior while consuming martinis. The Church Committee investigation revealed these operations continued until 1963, with no medical oversight or subject consent. Declassified documents confirm the safe house contained surveillance equipment, recording devices, and carefully staged bedrooms designed to appear ordinary while facilitating clinical observation of drugged citizens. On November 19, 1953, CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb spiked a bottle of Cointreau at a Deep Creek Lake retreat. Frank Olson, a biochemist at Fort Detrick's Special Operations Division, consumed the liqueur without knowledge it contained LSD. According to declassified CIA memoranda, Gottlieb waited 20 minutes before informing the group of the dosing. 9 days later, on November 28, Olson fell from the 10th floor of New York's Hotel Statler. His supervisor, Vincent Rouet, was in the adjacent room. The CIA classified the death as suicide and withheld agency involvement from Olson's family. In June 1975, the Rockefeller Commission's investigation into intelligence abuses disclosed the incident. President Ford personally apologized to Olson's widow and authorized a settlement of $750,000. Senate Report 94-755 would later document the event as part of MKULTRA's broader operational recklessness. The Church Committee's investigation revealed that MKULTRA experiments extended far beyond CIA facilities, targeting vulnerable populations unable to provide meaningful consent. In January 1953, Harold Blower, a professional tennis player receiving treatment for depression at New York State Psychiatric Institute, died following his fifth involuntary injection of mescaline derivatives administered under Army contract. At California's Vacaville prison, psychiatrist Carl Pfeiffer conducted hallucinogen trials on inmates throughout the 1960s, documented in Senate Report 94-755. Simultaneously, Edgewood Arsenal exposed over 7,000 military personnel to chemical agents including LSD between 1955 and 1975. Army physician James Ketchum later testified that subjects experienced severe psychological reactions, with limited medical oversight. These programs shared a common feature: systematic circumvention of informed consent protocols, targeting populations with diminished autonomy under institutional control. In January 1973, outgoing CIA Director Richard Helms issued an order that would permanently obstruct investigations into MKULTRA. He directed that all operational files related to the program be destroyed. The timing preceded the Watergate scandal and subsequent congressional oversight by mere months. Sidney Gottlieb, who had retired from the CIA in 1972, personally supervised the destruction operation. Over the course of several days, personnel systematically shredded documents detailing 2 decades of experiments. The scale was comprehensive: researcher names, institutional partnerships, experimental protocols, and subject consent records were all eliminated. Only financial disbursement records survived, having been misfiled in a separate budget office. These ledgers, discovered during a 1977 Freedom of Information Act request, would become the primary documentary evidence. Senate Report 94-755 later confirmed that the destruction had been thorough and deliberate. In January 1975, President Gerald Ford established the Rockefeller Commission to investigate CIA activities within the United States. The Commission's June 1975 report documented domestic surveillance abuses and briefly mentioned drug testing on unwitting subjects. This revelation prompted Senator Frank Church to convene the Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations, which held extensive public hearings throughout 1975. The Church Committee uncovered broader intelligence community overreach, but MKULTRA details remained fragmented due to Director Richard Helms ordering most program files destroyed in 1973. In August 1977, Senator Ted Kennedy held focused hearings specifically on MKULTRA. Sidney Gottlieb, the program's technical director, and Richard Helms both testified under oath, confirming the scope of unethical experimentation conducted between 1953 and 1973. On December 22, 1974, Seymour Hersh published a front-page exposé in the New York Times detailing massive illegal domestic surveillance operations conducted by the Central Intelligence Agency. His reporting drew from a classified internal document that CIA Director William Colby had compiled earlier that year, known informally as the Family Jewels. The memo cataloged decades of agency abuses, including mail opening programs, domestic wiretapping, and experiments on unwitting American citizens. Hersh's article immediately triggered congressional outrage and demands for accountability from both political parties. Within weeks, the Senate established the Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, chaired by Senator Frank Church. This investigation would ultimately expose MKULTRA and dozens of related covert programs to public scrutiny for the first time. The Church Committee hearings began in January 1975, armed with Colby's own internal admissions as their roadmap. In 1977, investigative journalist John Marks filed a Freedom of Information Act request that would fundamentally alter our understanding of MKULTRA. His inquiry uncovered approximately 16,000 pages of financial records that had been misfiled in the CIA's budget archives. These documents had survived the 1973 destruction order precisely because they were stored separately from operational files. The recovered materials consisted primarily of subproject invoices, funding authorizations, and contractor payment records spanning the program's 20-year existence. Senate Report 94-755 references these documents extensively, noting they provided the only surviving detailed accounting of MKULTRA's scope. Today, these records are preserved at the National Security Archive at George Washington University, with additional releases mandated under the JFK Records Act. The Marks collection remains the authoritative documentary foundation for all subsequent MKULTRA scholarship and investigation.